All right, what's going on, guys? SteelTwins back at you with another video. Just going to be talking about all the Steelers offseason moves that they've done so far, specifically last week.
Yes. Of course, the free agency circuit is kind of slowing down. Granted, we still have some big names still in free agency, but the news is slowing down, so we thought it'd be a perfect time to get this video out, man. Steelers free agency moves. We're going to go over, of course, who they signed, contracts they restructured, who they lost due to retirement, released, and free agency and stuff like that. So let's just get right into it, man. Of course, the first thing we did was, of course, use the franchise tag. And the Steelers placed the franchise tag on Bud Dupree.
And this was all but expected.
Yes, this was incredibly expected. This is someone we're incredibly indifferent on. This is someone we've been pretty critical on for years now. The way we see it, he has only had one productive year in 5 years. And I don't think that necessarily accounts for the franchise tag or a big money contract or a big long-term contract, in my opinion. But at the same time, we can't really afford to lose Dupree because of the needs we already need to address in the draft. And we got to try to keep this defense intact. And we all know the duo that Dupree and Watt are and the chemistry they have and the dominance they bring to the defense and the pass rush. So
Right.
He's not necessarily all that deserving of the franchise tag, in our opinion, or a big term or a long-term contract, in our opinion. But at the same time, we can't risk to let him go because of the reasons that we just stated. So
Right.
I don't blame the Steelers for using the tag on Dupree. They've been very high on Dupree, of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given him the fifth-year option, and that was the year he completely broke out. I'm open to keeping Dupree and giving him a long-term deal. As long as he shows consistency, I would have him play the franchise tag on this year, of course.
Which is to be expected.
Yes.
For the most part.
Right.
And if he is more consistent, because that's always the thing about Dupree. He's always had the talent, but he was just never consistent.
Yes.
He showed that last year with his fifth-year option. He just needs to do it again with the franchise tag. If he can do that, then maybe we'll be a little bit more open to a long-term deal with Bud Dupree.
Right, but it has to be reasonable because we still have T.J. Watt to give a long-term extension. And we all know whatever Bud Dupree is going to get, T.J. Watt is worth 3 times the amount.
Yeah,
because that's how
exactly.
great he is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to break the bank for Dupree when we still got to get a big deal with Watt. So, but I don't mind keeping Dupree. Hopefully he shows consistency and we get a decent deal going. And hopefully we can keep Dupree and Watt together for years to come. So, not a bad move by the Steelers. A necessary one at that. Now, of course, the guys that they released. Now, this was to help because we were in cap hell. We all know we were in cap hell. We had a little over just $1 million in cap space. That was it. We had literally nothing on the board. We were scratching the bottom of the barrel for everything. And because we gave Dupree the tag, we had to make room to afford his tag, and that included some releases, of course. And those names that got released were, of course, Mark Barron, Anthony Chickillo, Johnny Holton, and Roosevelt Nix. Mark Barron, first of all, there were rumors that he was going to stay this year and be the linebacker again for the Steelers. I wasn't a fan of that, and thankfully he got released because although he was an upgrade from Morgan Burnett a few years back, he still didn't really do that much on the defense. He was one of the few weak links on that defense last year. So, and It was a big necessary need. I forget how much they saved in cap. I think it was over $5 million. Just Mark Barron alone, and the same thing happened with Anthony Chickillo. Chickillo fucking sucks.
Yeah, thank God we released him. We've been wanting him to be released.
Yeah,
he is awful.
He is one of our worst backups. Thankfully, he is not our backup anymore. He could be another team's backup, even if he gets signed. He was not worth the 2-year extension last year. They gave it to him. They overpaid him, and us releasing him saved an additional $5 million cap space. I mean, Chickillow's garbage.
I don't think he's even good on special teams.
No, he's not. The one play that keeps triggering in my mind when I think of Anthony Chickillo in the Steelers uniform is that missed tackle he had on Rashad Penny in the Seahawks game this past year on a 3rd and short, which Penny would break the tackle and score a touchdown, which would help us lose the game.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Chickillo. Thanks for nothing, and goodbye.
Good riddance.
Same thing with Johnny Holton. He sucks. He has speed, but he is horrible on the fucking deep ball. I remember in the Patriots game, we tried to get him on the deep ball like 5 times, and he absolutely sucked. He couldn't get the ball in his hands. He couldn't catch. He couldn't concentrate the deep ball. He had the speed that the Steelers like. He just couldn't do a damn thing.
He had no concentration with targeting the football in
No,
the air.
no. And I don't know why we use Holton in that role when Washington is definitely the more steady and better target at that role in the deep ball, which he showed later in the season with the quarterbacks he had. So,
yeah.
Goodbye, Holton. And same thing with Roosevelt next. Now, all three of these guys we have the same view on. Nix is different because he was a fan favorite. He was a guy that came out of college, of course, as an undrafted linebacker. He was originally a linebacker, and then he got moved to fullback, and that completely helped out his career and further his career. It's just unfortunate that he couldn't stay healthy for the majority of his career. I remember last year he only played one game, which was the Bengals Monday Night Football game, and that was it. And that helped us with the rushing game. That gave James Conner, I believe, his only 100-yard rushing game that season, or last year.
Yeah, and yes, it was the Bengals, but you have Nix in there. That's definitely going to help your rushing game a lot.
Right, but...
And Nix did that a lot, even when we had Le'Veon Bell back in the day. He was a huge helping hand in the rushing game when it came to Bell.
Absolutely, as well as special teams. He was an absolute demon on special teams, man. He was a dynamic, hard-hitting, old-school Steelers player, man.
It just sucked that he couldn't stay healthy, but... I don't expect Nix to be out of a job for long. When he's healthy, he's a hell of a fullback. He's a hell of a special teamer.
Right.
I definitely expect him to get a starting fullback job with some other team. Who that is remains to be seen, but I'm sure he'll get a job soon.
Absolutely, as he deserves, because when he's healthy, he can be one of the more underrated fullbacks in the league. It's just unfortunate he couldn't stay healthy, and this cut had to be made, especially with the signing that we had to replace Nix, which is definitely a better option, a more healthy option, a more dependable option on both sides of the ball, in terms of course, the offensive side of the ball and special teams, of course.
Yeah,
so,
and availability, of course.
Absolutely. So that is who we released. Now, another way that we were to save cap was the Steelers were looking to either release or shop left guard Ramon Foster to save some cap. Ramon Foster, now this was coming because he was getting up to age. His play was showing, his age was showing, his play was decreasing. So, Ramon Foster, like a true Steeler, man, instead of being shopped or being cut and having his name on the back of another team's jersey, wearing some other team's colors, he just decided to retire at the age of 34. He had a hell of a career. He was undrafted. He built his way up to be a great starter, one of the more underrated left guards in the entire league, I'd say.
In the past decade, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the more dominant guys, one of the more lead blockers on our offensive line, especially in the rushing game when it came to Le'Veon Bell and James Conner in his later years, of course. And I can't think of another guy that speaks Pittsburgh Steelers more than Ramon Foster in the last decade, because this guy lived and breathed black and gold. This guy embodied what a Pittsburgh Steeler is, and his retirement just completely showed that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Polamalu when we were going to either cut Polamalu or pretty much the Steelers forced him into retirement, unfortunately. But, at the time, Troy's time was coming to an end. And, of course, every NFL player has the feeling where, well, I'm not done. I still got a year or two left in me. But the Steelers forced Polamalu to retire, and that's because Polamalu had so much love and respect for the franchise and for the Rooneys and everything. He just retired. He didn't want his team, or he didn't want his name on another team's colors, or on another team's jersey. So that's kind of what that reminded me of. But those are two guys that just embody Pittsburgh Steelers right there. And that's why we love guys like that, man, because they're absolute leaders in the locker room. They help, build this team, build their way up, become legends in the black and gold. And Ramon Foster protected our quarterback and was one of the main anchors on that offensive line.
Absolutely.
For the better half of a decade, or for the better part of a decade. So, Ramon Foster, the big Ragu. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, love you, man. Steelers Nation, love you. Thank you for your efforts, for your hard work, for protecting our quarterback, and hope you enjoy retirement, man. Seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but now on to guys that we lost to free agency. This is actually really interesting, and because of all this should lead up to I'm hearing 3 or 4 compensatory picks next year.
Which is good for us.
Absolutely. So now, of course, one guy that was inevitable to walk away was Javon Hargrave.
And obviously he signed, I believe it was a 3-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. If I'm correct, it was a 3-year, $39 million deal. So he got his money. He got his money, which he absolutely deserves.
Yeah, he deserves every single penny of that deal.
Absolutely, and the Eagles is a perfect fit for him because it's a system where he's going to play all 3 downs. He's going to get more opportunity, and like you said, opposite of Fletcher Cox, it's going to make him even better. He still has time to grow. He's got the bag, and he's just going to be a more dynamic player with the Eagles in their system, and beside Fletcher Cox and the guys they got beside him. So, great for Hargrave, man. We're really happy for Hargrave. Maybe he returns to the black and gold
in the
one
future,
day.
yeah.
But as of now, man, he's getting what he deserves, the bag, more playing time, more opportunity, more exposure for him to increase his legacy and his hard work and everything. So good for Hargrave.
Yeah.
Tyler Matakavich signs with the Bills. This is a guy I thought that the Steelers were going to keep. I think because of his special teams anchor, we all thought that Steelers were going to somehow keep him. But, in fact, Matakavich signed with the Bills, and it was a 2-year deal worth $9 million for a guy that only plays special teams.
Yeah, we would not have been able to afford that with our cap, no matter how many moves we've done.
Absolutely not. And with the guy that we had replace Matakavich with the signing we got in free agency, I'll gladly take him over Matakavich because, 1, it's a cheaper deal, and 2, I mean, just look at his name, which we'll get into later. So, I mean, good for Matakavich. He gets the bag, but, I mean, what the fuck, Bills? You're overpaying for a special teams player.
Yeah.
So
Matakavich, we said countless times we thought he was a steal. He never lived up to anything.
No, he didn't.
He was a nice tackler, but the thing that really hurt him was his speed. If he was faster, maybe he would have been a steal.
Arguably so.
But he was slow.
Yeah, he just couldn't produce on the field except special teams. So
exactly. So
that's where he's going to get.
Good luck to Tyler Matakavich and everything and the Bills.
Right.
I gotta say the Bills got a good special teamer, but I think they overpaid him.
Oh, absolutely. B.J. Finney signs with the Seahawks. This one actually hurt because B.J. Finney, he was undrafted, and just like the big Ragu, he built his way up and became a steady backup and anchorman for the offensive line. I remember there were times where Ramon Foster would get injured. B.J. Finney would step in, and he'd do a fantastic job.
Hell, when Marquise Pouncey got suspended over the Myles Garrett situation, he stepped in and did pretty well.
He did an absolute fantastic job, and I think with the Seahawks, this is a perfect place for him to actually get some more opportunity because I think B.J. Finney is starting material in this league. It's just he couldn't get that job with the Steelers because of guys like Ramon Foster and Marquise Pouncey, of course. Now, if we were to resign him, which the Steelers were trying to, he definitely could have been the starting left guard and would have been a steady left guard at that. So, but unfortunately we couldn't, and he signed with the Seahawks, which I think is a good place for him. He's still going to protect a great quarterback in Russell Wilson. He should be steady for the rushing game there, and he gets a lot more playing time and hopefully a starting gig with the Seahawks, which he deserves. So
yeah, definitely more opportunities for Finney. It's going to hurt losing arguably our best backup on the offensive line.
Or on the team overall.
Yeah, but Seahawks got a hell of a player.
Yeah, they did.
Probably a big stud.
Absolutely.
On that offensive line that they desperately need.
Exactly. So good for B.J. Finney and good for the Seahawks, man. Hope you guys doing well, man. Sean Davis signed with the Redskins.
This was pretty expected that Davis was going to leave, obviously, with the trade we did with Miami. Thank you again.
Yeah, so
Sean, I would have been open to Davis coming back as a backup, but I know that's not what he would have wanted. So he signed a 1-year, $5 million contract with the Redskins. Pretty much a prove-it deal with pretty much his home team.
Yeah.
Because he's a Washington, D.C. Resident, and I'm sure he's going to want to try to prove himself again with his home team.
Right, as well as a guy he idolized and Sean Taylor, one of the
Right.
greatest safeties of all time before his,
Unfortunate passing.
Right, of course. So, good for Sean Davis, but Redskins. I hope. Good luck. That's all I'm gonna say. Davis wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. That was the issue.
He never lived up to his rookie year.
No,
I remember his rookie year. He was very good.
Yeah.
He just never lived up to it, just like Burns.
Yeah, speaking of Artie Burns, Artie just got burned again, signed with the Bears. Moving on.
Yeah, Nick Vanette, he signed.
Yeah, what the fuck are you thinking, Chicago? This guy better be depth. Well, this guy better be the water boy.
That's a good one. But yeah, goodbye, Burns.
Yeah, but thanks a lot. What a horrible fucking selection, man. I know it was desperation and it was pretty much a panic selection because
but it's like Steelers could have taken their time. They could have gotten Xavier Howard, Kevin Byard.
They should have had a backup plan at that time.
Miles Jack.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't have a backup plan. If my main guy, who was William Jackson III, was not there, I'm taking the best player available. Who was that? Miles Jack. Lawrence Timmons was coming into a contract year in which he left. So who do you replace Timmons with? Miles Jack. I know Vince Williams is starting to show some spark, and the Steelers liked him, and he's becoming a pretty steady number 2 right there. But, I mean, you're talking about Miles fucking Jack, who's a top 5 selection if it wasn't for his goddamn injuries.
It dropped all the way down to
the 2nd round to Jacksonville.
Yeah. So, hey, I guess you learn from mistakes, and that was definitely a bad mistake.
It's bad. What the fuck? I think that's an understatement. Good Lord,
I guess you can say that. But, yeah, and Nick Vannett then signed with the Denver Broncos.
We traded a 5th rounder for him.
And I don't think he did anything.
No.
He really did. He was just there. I mean, he was
he was there. That's it.
He was a nice blocker, but
that's it.
I don't know why we got him. Maybe depth.
Yeah, it was depth because we had no dependable number.
But you're trying a 5th. I know a 5th's usually nothing,
especially in the Steelers realm. But
he was there. He was literally there to dress up. Be like, hey, I'm here. I'm on the team. What should I do?
Yeah.
Should I just block? Okay.
Yeah, like he could be a decent compliment to Noah Fant with Denver, but I mean, whatever, man.
Well, I mean, good luck.
Right.
I guess.
But those are the guys we lost to free agency. So now contracts that we restructured. This also helped us, pay for Dupree's tag as well as go get some free agents, in which the Steelers definitely did. The contracts we restructured was Chris Boswell, and this is in actual order. Chris Boswell, Vance McDonald, thankfully, Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Marquise Pouncey. So because of the new CBA, the Steelers were able to restructure a lot of contracts, create, I believe, what was said over $20 million in cap space because of the guys that they released, Foster's retirement, and the restructure. So they were able to save over $20 to $25 million in cap space, which helped them go get some names and go make some moves, of course, in free agency. So, and of course, guys that they were signed, which was Cameron Canada, long snapper to a 2-year deal. So we got our long snapper for 2 years. Zach Banner, who could be in a right tackle starting gig or position battle with Chuck Corfor to a 1-year deal, and Jordan Dangerfield to a 1-year deal. He'll just be special teams and safety depth.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Now, we get on to the good shit, man. Steelers play 2nd-round tenders on Mike Hilton and Matt Fielder. So we keep Mike Hilton and Matt Fielder for an additional year. Unless one of them gets signed to a team, then that team has to surrender a 2nd-round pick, which I would absolutely love. Me personally, I like Mike Hilton. I love Mike Hilton. I think he's one of the better nickel guys in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility that a team's going to sign Mike Hilton and surrender a 2nd-round tender because that's how good Hilton is.
Yeah.
Now, he's only going to be a nickel guy, but if there's a team that needs to complete their secondary, Mike Hilton could be that guy.
Absolutely.
And we could put Cameron Sutton in Hilton's spot. But still, Mike Hilton will be back in the black and gold if he does not get signed, so good for us.
And the same with Matt Fielder.
Yes.
Matt Fielder came as another undrafted guy, and he fought for a starting right tackle position, and in my opinion, he did very, very well.
Very well. When
in his first year starting.
Yeah, when Marcus Gilbert got traded to Arizona, it was his time to step up, and he definitely did. So I think he's definitely deserving of a contract extension for sure. And this will be another year for him to prove it. Whether we move him to left guard or keep him a right tackle, either way, he's a steady offensive lineman that can be moved anywhere on the offensive line and produce. So good for Matt Fielder and good for us completely. So now, the guys that the Steelers signed in free agency. And some of these were actually pretty unexpected and actually really exciting.
Yeah, to be honest, I did not expect Steelers to go too deep into free agency, but they went, I don't want to say all in, but they got massive needs.
They did. They really addressed a lot of needs, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So the first guy that they signed in free agency was fullback Derek Watt to a 3-year deal worth $9.75 million.
Yeah. Look at that cross section right there.
That's good.
That is good.
Italian BMT? I can see why it's his favorite.
Yeah.
God damn, it's good. But yeah.
Now I kind of want to hurry up and finish this video because that's fucking delicious.
Of course, it really is.
But yeah, Derek Watt, 3-year deal worth $9.75 million. I did not expect this whatsoever.
No.
I definitely expected Nix to come back healthy and to still be our fullback, but it was while we were working too. We were pretty much getting done with our shift. And Danny comes up to me and he says, yo, we signed a former Charger with his last name that starts with a W. And I was trying to think. For some reason, I thought Eric Weddle, but he retired. And he's not a
Well,
Charger
what the
anymore.
fuck?
I don't know why I thought of him.
I thought you were going to say Mike Williams.
No. Then, well, I would like that, but...
Oh, yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but I was like, give me a hint. I was like, what position does he play? He just screamed fullback. I'm like, wait, are you serious? Are you shitting me? Like, you gotta be joking me. No, it's true.
I wasn't bullshitting, man. We literally got started right into our shift. I want to give a huge shout out to Jill, who works with us as well. And I remember rushing up to him like, yo, guess who we signed? And he's like, who? And I'm like, Derek Watt. I'm like TJ's brother. He's like, oh shit, that's a great sign. I'm like, bro, and I was hyped the entire day because of that shit. Because, like we said, Roosevelt Nix is a great fullback and special teams helper when healthy. But that's the issue. When healthy. He couldn't stay healthy. Derek Watt can stay healthy. And he is an absolute force when it comes to the I-forms or pass protection or run blocking, or even if you want to give him the ball a few times, man, he's good there too. So not only does this help us with the rushing game and keeping the offense healthy and the rushing game a little more steady, hopefully the Steelers are all in on the rushing game because, I mean, if they sign Derek Watt and release Roosevelt Nix, they're obviously going to want a more healthy fullback. So I'm thinking they're definitely going to use some more I formation and get the rushing game going this year, absolutely. As well as this helps us, fill in for the loss of Tyler Matakavich, who was a special teams demon for us. Derek Watt is a monster on special teams. One of the better guys in the league when it comes to special teams. One of the more underrated blockers and demons at special teams, I'd say. Or guys in the league, I'd say, overall. So This is a great signing. This is a phenomenal signing for the offense and for special teams. And quietly, this helps TJ stay in Pittsburgh. Now, I doubt he was actually going to go hit the open market because he's already adapting to the Steelers culture and the Pittsburgh culture overall. But this just solidifies and helps TJ remain in Pittsburgh and prevent him from going to the open market. So this is a great sign overall. And he's reunited with TJ. Now all we got to get is JJ. Bill O'Brien, you want this Subway sandwich? I'll give it to you. JJ,
you want this? You want this pack of tape to fix your team?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Seriously, bro. Come on, give us JJ. How about it? But that's a great sign, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Derek Watt as a Pittsburgh Steeler, goddamn, let's fucking go.
Absolutely, man. We got incredibly hype in the trucks when we were when we first got the word for that. So that's a great signing, man. Derek Watt, welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The second guy that we signed in free agency, which was actually pretty interesting, when we launched Ramon Foster and BJ Finney, left guard was immediately in need. Now, I thought they were going to address that in the draft. They still could for depth and for development, and with this signing, this helps that. The Steelers signed offensive guard Steven Wisniewski to a 2-year deal worth $2.85 million. Yes, that's it.
That is a cheap deal for a veteran offensive lineman who can be considered a starter or a depth guy. Either way, this is a hell of a sign, if you ask me.
Absolutely, because like we said with Matt Fielder, when not only did we give him the second-round tender, which keeps him in Pittsburgh this year, he can play right tackle, or if the Steelers want to keep the offensive line a little more steady, a little more stable, you can move Fielder to left guard because he has experience there. Remember, he played left guard in the Rams game to steady out that offensive line and prevent Aaron Donald from doing any damage, in which he didn't. So you could put him there, and then you have Wisniewski as the B.J. Finney type piece, as a veteran piece and the flexible piece who can play guard and center if you want to rotate them, or if one gets injured, unfortunately, you could put him there.
Yeah.
And then you can have a right tackle battle with Chuck Scorfor and Zach Banner. Or if that doesn't work out, you can still move Matt Fielder back to right tackle, which we know he's dependable at, and put Wisniewski, who's starting material, at left guard and still keep the offensive line steady. So this is a great signing that keeps the offensive line steady in terms of depth or any position or any way they want to maneuver guys on the offensive line. And I still think the Steelers address offensive line, whether that's tackle or guard or center, in the draft to be development behind Wisniewski and eventually take his spot.
Yeah, because
when his contract is up.
Yeah, because Wisniewski right now, he's 30 years old. You know, the age is definitely a concern, but he's a steady replacement right now.
Yeah,
which is fine. And then, like you said, in the draft, we can draft a guy or find an undrafted guy, which we're very good at when it comes to offensive line. We can develop the guy, and when his time's ready, put him in there in the future.
Absolutely. So,
but this is a great sign overall. Whether he can be starting material, a depth guy, regardless, hell of a sign.
Absolutely. This guy is a great, dependable, temporary solution, I'd say, at left guard. But like you said, we'll probably draft a guy and develop him there. So it's a great signing for the offensive line. Keeps it steady. You guys got options now on offensive line where they want to maneuver guys or how they want to line it up and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a great signing for that. And it's a great signing for the guy we're going to draft to develop behind Wisniewski. So it's a great signing overall for the offensive line in the future when it comes to the draft.
Absolutely. So Steven Wisniewski, welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers and welcome back to Pittsburgh.
Absolutely, as this is his hometown, of course. Now the next signing is something that a lot of Steelers fans wanted but didn't expect because of the price.
Yeah, I personally did not expect it, but when it was announced, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, we got him for this cheap?
Yeah, especially
like guys like Tyler Eifert and Jimmy Graham, who are way out of their prime, got much more expensive deals than who we signed here.
I think Graham got signed to the Bears for 2 years worth $16 million.
Yeah.
And Eifert got signed to the Jags for 2 years for $1 less than what Graham got. So the guy we signed was tight end Eric Ebron to a 2-year deal worth $12 million. Tyler Eifert can't fucking stay healthy, and he got paid more than Eric Ebron, who, yes, has injury concerns, has drop concerns, has inconsistency issues, but he is still very dependable if you think about it. And he's not going to be a starter. He's going to be the number 2. He's a dependable lean-on for when or if Vance gets injured.
Right.
He has that veteran experience. He has that seam stretching ability. He has that vertical threat ability that you want in a tight end. The thing with Ebron in his career, he was pretty much put in a position where he couldn't succeed for most of his career. And that started in Detroit. When the fuck did Detroit ever have a decent tight end? I mean, they drafted Brandon Pettigrew in, 2009 in the first round?
Yeah.
And he didn't do a goddamn thing. And then they signed Eric Ebron to replace him. And they
didn't sign him. They drafted him.
Draft him, yes. And they still couldn't get the tight end going. And then I feel bad for
Hawkinson.
Yeah, T.J. Hawkinson.
Or even Jesse James.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
Exactly.
Hawkinson's he's in his early stages of the NFL, but that still doesn't, because Detroit does not have a great track record with tight ends.
No, they don't. And
but getting back to Ebron, he had Matthew Stafford. Stafford's not all that great.
And he doesn't, and again, same with the Lions. They don't use their tight ends. I mean, look at Jesse James. Look at Jesse James from Pittsburgh to Detroit. Look at the quarterbacks he had. Look at the systems he had. Jesse James had Big Ben in the Steelers system that loves to use tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse James got that big money contract with Detroit. As soon as he went to Detroit, he didn't live up to any of it. He was an immediate overpaid free agent. And he still is with Detroit. I feel bad for Jesse James. Sure, he got the bag, but he's not getting as much production or playing time as he had in Pittsburgh when he had Big Ben at quarterback.
Exactly.
And going back to Ebron, when he got signed to Indianapolis, he had Andrew Luck at quarterback. And look at Andrew Luck's track record with tight ends. I mean, you look at Kobe Fleener. He got a big contract with the Saints, and he didn't really live up to that. And then he had Jack Doyle, who got a big contract extension with the Colts. Look at those two guys that he helped, build up and give them big money contracts. And he did the same thing with Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron had a Pro Bowl selection year in 2018, had 13 fucking touchdowns and a breakout season. His first year, he could finally break out into that first-round potential. And then Andrew Luck retired. And then he had Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett isn't necessarily a guy that uses tight ends as well. Now, he used Ebron more than, I'd say, what Stafford used, but still, he didn't live up to the production as he did the year prior because he had Luck.
Yeah.
You bring in Ben, or you bring in Ebron with Ben as his quarterback. Ben loves to use tight ends. Again, the prime example is Jesse James. And you see how Ben has used tight ends his entire fucking career. Heath Miller. You had Matt Spaeth. You had Ladarius Green. Remember when we signed him and he had that few good weeks with the Steelers when he was healthy before he got concussed again?
Yeah.
And you see how Ben used him then and how much potential he showed when he was healthy? And then you have Vance McDonald. He had a breakout year in 2018. I mean,
Jesse James, like we said.
Yeah, so it's like
Ben knows how to use his targets,
and
specifically tight ends.
And why do you think Eric Ebron had a breakout year in 2018 with Andrew Luck? Because they share the same mentality. They know how to use tight ends. They know how to just work with tight ends. They know how to use them. They know how to work with them. They know how to produce with them. So you bring Eric Ebron in with the Steelers system with Big Ben as his quarterback who knows how to use tight ends and loves how to use tight ends. I think that's great for Eric Ebron and for our offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this. We've been incredibly critical on Vance McDonald and his injury concerns and his drops and everything. But in 2018, he did show a lot of spark with Ben. And whether he stays healthy or not, we still have a dependable, experienced lean on with Eric Ebron. And you see what he's done with the quarterbacks that know how to use tight ends and with Ben in, I mean, it's really exciting.
Yeah. And Ebron does have concerns with staying healthy in his drops, but they're not as bad, in my honest opinion, than Vance's.
Absolutely.
I feel like, in my opinion, he's better than Vance.
Right.
And you're going to have Vance and Ebron both on the Steelers team. So you have two very dependable tight ends for the most part.
Especially with Ben at quarterback.
Exactly. Kind of like how you did when Vance and Jesse James were on the same team. Now, I remember when they were on the same team, it wasn't always Vance starting every game. It was Vance and then Jesse and maybe Jesse again and then Vance. And they just rotated starting. They rotated being a starting tight end when it came to the games.
Right.
You can easily do that with Ebron and Vance, and that could potentially help them both stay healthy and both of them possibly still be productive.
Absolutely.
If you ask me, I feel like guys like Vance and Ebron with their type of talent could work with double tight end sets. Because you look how Ebron did, because he was just a lone tight end in Detroit. And yes, he had Stafford, but they don't know how to use tight ends in Detroit.
Right.
He went to Indianapolis. He had another great tight end in Jack Doyle, and both of them worked flawlessly together.
Yeah.
You have Vance and Ebron together. Both of them could really, really break out in a way.
Right. And again, Ben and Luck have the same mentality when it comes to tight end. So, I mean, Ben with the last stages of his career, he needs a dependable tight end and a tight end set that he can depend on, and that is Vance and that is Ebron. Again, we've been critical on Vance, but he has shown a lot of spark with Ben. Ben's coming back. Ebron is a guy you can flex out in the slot and use him as kind of like a hybrid tight end, I say.
Yeah.
And that's scary right there. And again, you know, there are concerns. He does have drops. He does have injury concerns. But like you said, not as bad as Vance. So I really love the signing. I think it's great for the offense. The only negative I have with this signing is that the Steelers are still not focusing on the future when it comes to the tight end position. You know, we have yet to even replace Heath. You know,
long term.
The guys that we've had in place of Heath since he's retired, they've been temporary. You know, they're not necessarily full-time replacements. I'm trying to think of full-time, long-term replacements at tight end. We have yet to fix that. And that continues with Eric Ebron. But the Steelers are in a win-now situation. They're thinking of experience. They're thinking of weapons for Ben. They're thinking of ways to help out the offense a lot. Mm-hmm. Ebron does that a lot at the tight end position with Vance and as number one. Like you said, they might rotate with starting gigs in games. So
which I feel like could work very well for both tight ends. I feel like that's how they could really break out.
It's very possible.
Kind of like how Vance did. He had Jesse James to depend on in a way.
Yeah.
You give Vance and Ebron both that, and like Ebron had that with Jack Doyle when he had Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
You give them both that, they could stay healthy. They could be better.
Absolutely.
In my honest opinion.
It's a very exciting signing. And for an incredibly cheap deal from what guys, I'd say, at this point in time, inferior to Ebron. So this is a great sign for the offense. It helps Ben out a lot. It helps the tight end position out a lot. It helps the offense overall out a lot.
And you see the Steelers signing a lot of offensive players. And obviously the offense was so dreadful last year.
Yeah.
And we're replacing a lot of needs.
And they're really helping out Ben. At fullback, they're going to use Watt to help protect Ben, but as well as use the rushing game more to take some pressure off of Ben. You got Wisniewski, who's a steady run defender and a good pass blocker as well. That helps lock up the interior offensive line, and that helps Ben and his protection and the rushing game as well. Same thing with Eric Ebron. It gives Ben another dependable, fast, reliable tight end target that he needs, that he wants, and helps motion out the offense, opens up a lot for the offense. And we still have the draft to address, whether we might draft guard as depth, we might draft another receiver to help out the offense. So I don't think the Steelers are done when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. And they might draft a receiver or a running back, or who knows. They might even draft another tight end if they're not even high on Zach Gentry. Who really knows? But it's great
Yeah.
to see that they're focusing on protecting Ben, taking some pressure off of Ben, and helping out the offense, especially at positions of need. So great shit on Colbert, great shit on Tomlin, great shit on the Steelers front office for doing what they did in free agency.
So far.
Yeah, so
you know,
far.
they're probably still not done. You know, they haven't done anything right now, but they could still do something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's possible. And we're going to close out here. This is an interesting way to close out. I mean, Kevin Colbert's pulling out all the stops this year. I mean, he traded with the Ravens, for fuck's sake. I mean,
the Baltimore Ravens, our biggest rival.
which I don't think we ever did before. I mean, we might have back in the day when the Ravens first started, but I mean, that was like 20 years ago. So, the Steelers traded a 2021 fifth-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens for defensive end Chris Wormley and the 2021 seventh-round pick.
You know, when I first heard about this, I was like, okay. But now I was like, wait, who is this guy?
Yeah, like, I didn't know who the fuck this was, but, you know...
But the thing that's stuck in my mind is, like, we traded with the Ravens. I mean, it's really nothing, but it's like we traded with our division rival.
Yeah. So, but Chris Wormley, although we don't know who he was, thanks to Steelers Twitter and, of course, Google and all that internet social media, we're able to get some insight on him. He is a pretty steady defensive lineman. He is depth for the most part. He might work his way with special teams as well. He might help out with those field goals when it comes to crucial moments. It also might help when he rotates with guys like Tuitt and Hayward and maybe even at defensive tackle. He can play defensive end and defensive tackle. So if we want to use him on the defensive line, we could put him anywhere there. And according to a lot of Ravens fans we've talked to, and of course social media, he is a pretty steady run defender, and he's a great player when it comes to getting his hands up and swatting the balls or swatting the balls up, which could lead to interceptions, which is great. So
yeah,
this is a good trade here. It's an odd trade that we traded with the Ravens, but it's a good trade. It's a depth piece there with someone that is flexible and could be secretly a demon for when we need him.
He could be because, you know, you look at that Ravens, you know, defensive line. Obviously, he was going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, because, I mean, look at their depth. Look who they got.
Some Ravens fans that we talked to said that he could still have potential.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a third-round selection. He may still have potential. Maybe he just wasn't given the opportunity because of the guys ahead of him, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and this might give him that format to break out, maybe. So, I don't know. This is mostly depth, but...
Yeah, as far as we know, this guy's a depth guy, but...
He could be
who knows what's in for this guy in the future?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know yet.
So, this is the perfect time for him to shine and break through that ceiling that he potentially has. So, but that is the moves for Steelers free agency, man. A lot of crazy moves, a lot of big moves, a lot of necessary moves when it comes to releases, restructures, the trades, the signings, all that shit. So, if I had to give it a grade for Kevin Colbert and company, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna give it an A-. I would say A+, but you know, I think that the Steelers could have done a better job at grabbing Finney again. Now, I understand it's a cheaper deal to get Wisniewski over Finney, but I think Finney is just better on the offensive line for us. He's better. He knows the system more. He has relations with the guys on the offensive line. So
yeah.
But
if I had to give it a grade, I'd say an A.
Yeah. So
you know, it's needs that we needed to address, you know, and it gives us some flexibility in the draft. So I say good shit, Steelers.
Absolutely. So
they know what they're doing.
They do. They really do. And these signings, I think, are going to be big sleeper signings, especially a guy like Eric Ebron for the reasons that we stated a few minutes ago. So let us know your guys' thoughts down below about all the signings, man. Love to hear from you guys, hear your guys' opinions. It's always great. Maybe if we're missing on stuff, you guys can point that out and everything. If you know more about guys like Chris Wormley or Wisniewski or whatever, then go ahead and put that out there. If there's any other free agent signings or trades that you guys or that the Steelers that you guys would like the Steelers to make, go ahead and put that down below. Love to hear from you guys, of course. And good shit from Steelers and company. They may not be done, and we still got the draft coming up. So
absolutely
good shit, man. So see you guys in the next one.
Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you later.
Peace.